a lot later because there wasn't the verbiage in our culture to give us a language. So bicultural is a thing where somebody told me once I didn't have to pick American or Iranian because I don't belong in Iran either. I'm Iranian American, so that was like a moment. I taught in inner city school programs back in LA, everywhere from like South Central to like juvie programs up through Pasadena, Inglewood, wherever, which was also as an artist a difficult thing to do because a bunch of like our school was amazing out there in LA, but like we had teachers who like looked at me like I signed my own death warrant when I was like, so I teach underserved populations, and they're like, you're going to literally be forced to do that. Which is true. Like if you start teaching, they're going to want you to keep teaching. But what these people didn't understand was I don't have money. I don't have a father. Like my mother raised us. Yeah. There was no, so all the people that are looking down on me going, wow, I can't believe you teach. Their parents front the bill. So they live in LA, in Brooklyn, which is gentrifying, like in Manhattan, and their parents are paying for their apartments. So they have the ability to be artists. So right. I didn't know that at the time. I just felt bad about myself. Yeah, sorry.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm from Bushwick, and I seen the neighborhood transform tremendously. And you know, when you hear about it, like I remember taking my wife back maybe 5-6 years ago back to Brooklyn, and we were kind of just doing like a drive-through. It was 3:00 in the morning, and I saw, you know, a blonde hair white young lady with a golden retriever in the same block that my friend was gunned down.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I would talk to her, and I would say, you see that? That's where my good childhood friend was gunned down. And you, like, maybe 10, maybe even 6 years ago, you would never see that comfort of gentrification, that sense of safety. Our neighborhood was a neighborhood that you don't go, like blocks, you know, divide communities.
Yeah. We have those numbers, you know, where you're like, you don't go past 86th Street, like right. regarding Inglewood into other areas, you know. And that's, I mean, there's so much to touch on. Like, I also want to touch on the gentrification of Oakland, where I straight up had like white homies that were raised in the Hollywood Hills who were like living in Oakland because it's cheap, and they were working tech or biotech jobs in San Francisco, and they couldn't afford that. But they're like, no, but we're the good gentrifiers because we work for like environmental firms. And like, you know what I mean, though? Yeah, like, so because of my IQ, I was busing 2 hours to these really rich schools. So that was the mentality that I was growing up with white people who were saying the things that they believed in. And I believed in that because I was not around my own people. Like, you know.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now. You know, who's this well-rounded, who's Yasamin, and how did she get to where she got? Because not, you know, we battle with this constant trauma, this constant trajectory of like that expectation. And how do you divide yourself? I mean, people, I hear from people all the time, like, how did you do it, Oscar? Like, I'm still doing it.
But it's like, also do what? Like, live my life and live it. Right. I mean, I always quote Carrie James Marshall, like, we have a harder job because not only do we have to know all of our cultural elements, we also have to know all of the white cultural elements to play their game and beat them at it. So I have to be better. So like, I grew up, I was like, I am that rich white man. Like, I grew up idolizing, you know, the artists of the 1920s and 40s. Like, they were my daddies. Like, I wanted to be them. I wanted to write like them. And I wanted to honestly be a misogynist. Like, I was a misogynist just like them because that was the narrative of these men, of these drunks, of these like white pioneers of art. And so I betrayed my own culture and my own learning as a brown woman, as a Persian woman, as a queer woman, as a neurodivergent individual for many years to learn everything there was to know about that. I drank scotch. I learned how to smoke cigars. I could outquote anybody. I went to operas, even though I fell asleep. Every opera, I've never not like, but I was in operas. I was like, this is what the rich do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to infiltrate it. I'm going to take this over. Like, but the way that I did it was I served on the college advisory board of the LA Opera. So $300 opera tickets was given to me for free for working. So that's how I did it. I would always be working, infiltrating, going underground. Like I would tokenize myself to be an entertaining live painter just so I could have a ticket into these spaces, stand-up comedy even. I was like, I'll draw on like anything. I just would do the labor to get into these markets. And only later, like especially I think if it wasn't for the pandemic and the resurgence of the BLM movement, I would not be who I am right now. Like
what was, when you say tokenism, right? When you say tokenism, because we talk about this a lot. What was the end goal for you to put yourself in a vulnerable situation to be essentially used for the color of your skin and the background that you bring, but not fully accepted into that community? What was the end goal for you?
I mean, and also as a woman, I used my sex as well. Like not intentionally, but that was literally the only currency that I had at the time. The end goal, sometimes it was to get drunk. It was to get tickets into a space. It was to literally just have the connections. It was to sell a painting. Like I was so desperate to live the life that I fantasized for myself that I would do anything to get there. And I'm sorry if this is too deep, but
no. Don't. Okay. No, first of all,
I'm sorry
never
about
apologize. That. Never apologize for your experiences and who you are, because this is what we do. So never apologize. I'm revoking that sorry. Okay. Let's keep moving forward. Let's never apologize for that, because that's intriguing. That's what this platform is about. Like to express ourselves. Continue. Because I'm intrigued right now. So go ahead.
No, continue. I mean, that's all I got. I had to stop because that's again the other thing that we always apologize for taking up space and for being who we are. Like it's only until recently again where you're like,
my sister does it all the time. She's like always apologizing, especially in the female perspective, as a from the BIPOC community, always apologizing. Sorry. Stop apologizing.
Well, I mean, we're raised by women who as a Middle Easterner, my mom stayed with a drunk, abusive loser because everybody in her community, the Muslims, were like, divorce is not a thing. You probably are misunderstanding it. Even when I experienced sexual trauma as a child, I was like, this, and they're like, nah, you're just lying and making it up because you live in a world of fantasy. And I'm like, oh, it's because I'm trying to escape, but also I mean, we're raised to be appealing to men, and that is not talking about who we really are. Like when I date people, that's so difficult, where I'm like, all right, when do I tell them that this is also this is my history, this is my past, this is how my brain works. People who date me, I'm like, I'm an artist, and they go, yeah, that's tight, and I'm like, you have no idea what that means. You think it's novel, you think it's cute, you think I'm that manic pixie girl from the movies, but this is a heavy burden to be an artist, to truly represent my people, and to do it without my parents' money floating me. And they never believe me, but then when it starts to unfold, they're like, why are you so weird? That's a quote. Why are you so weird? This is who I am. Why is it always so heavy with you? Why do you always have to excavate things and analyze and overanalyze and question where the money's coming from? And I'm like,
oh, I feel that,
dude.
I feel that. It's because we're unpacking, we're unloading, because we're relearning every single time. We're relearning every single time. And those deep thoughts, those analytic movements that we do, we're calculating so we don't get hurt. So we break those barriers, right? And sometimes we're always apologizing. Or sometimes it's that guilt of that disconnect. Tell me
But it's also like I was reading one of your bios online from how, after Germany, or like you came to Nashua thinking that you were going to escape your bullies.
Right.
I, moving here 4 years ago, had no idea how quiet and subtle and malignant the racism here is. It's not like LA. I tell people all the time, I'm like, LA, again, like if you live on one side of 86th Street and you're black, you're going to be against the black people that live on the other side of 86th Street. Like that's how even I was not included in BIPOC communities, like because I'm Persian. So it's not the same thing. Here in New Hampshire, all of us that are marginalized come together and we're tight. We're very tight here. It doesn't matter who we are, which is amazing. There is some infighting, which is really petty with like older Black American people and the new like African American cultures. It's just ridiculous and it's such a waste of energy watching it. But anyway, that's besides the point. Like, I forgot where I was going. Sorry, I was like enveloped in this pettiness.
The whole
right.
the whole movement of coming here to Nashua and escaping those, my childhood friend was gunned down in Brooklyn. So my mom saw that there was, the neighborhood was before because she basically when my good friend died, he would eat. His mom was his mom was a crack addict, heroin addict, and we would take him in. So he would come with us on trips. We would buy him clothes. We would feed him. So when we lost him, it was a blow. It was a blow to the family, and my mom was scared. My mom was scared that I was going to be lost into gang violence in the community and to drugs. And so she saw an opportunity to come to New Hampshire. My uncle was already here. And the whole dynamic of like, trying to run away from another situation to get into a whole nother dynamic. And, I was never talked about white privilege. I was never talked about tokenism. And the reason why is because we didn't feel it in the melting pot of New York City. My neighbors look like me.
Yep.
My neighborhood.
Whenever I go visit LA, it's like wearing a familiar coat. I'm just like, oh, this is gay. This is brown. This is black. This smells the like.
Yes, I was about to tell you that. I was about to tell you that my neighborhood smelled like my home. The cooking, the familiar smells and the environment and the music driving by. I felt like I belonged. Exactly.
We don't stand out when we go home. We don't like here. Everybody's like, they use us. Again, there's that tokenism. A lot of us have learned, especially after the pandemic and all of this diversity work that's happening because of all of these grants that people want to use, but they have to
talk about that.
So we get used for our labor. We got used a lot for our labor. So a lot of us now are like, we put up big red signs whenever somebody approaches us and we go, we don't work for free, number one, period. Number two, how many times do I tell people I will not work on your committee, your board, if I'm the only POC on there? Like that's crazy. Yeah, changing the culture of an entire. I mean, I hear. Okay, by that sigh, I'm hearing that you are familiar with this territory.
Oh, are you kidding? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
we battle with this every single day. We're business owners. We're not a nonprofit. Let's work with banks to try to put us in a position of power and let us speak, not speak for us. No. We want to fit you in a box so we can check off that box so we can get a grant. Because guess what? There's only so many things that we can do because we're a nonprofit. It sounds repetitive all the time when I talk about it and my team hears it. But the reason I keep talking about it is because it keeps happening. I wouldn't reiterate something if it's not happening. I'm not speaking out of hurt. I'm not speaking out of trauma. I'm speaking out of rehashing, relearning, and moving us forward.
But there is that there too, right? Because as you're saying this, my fingertips are going numb because I have had personal experiences with organizations, big ones that everybody thinks are really great.
Yeah.
that they destroyed me. Like
Mm.
I was so traumatized. I had I was so traumatized. I had one executive of an organization. Every time she saw me, she goes, "Really, that's your boyfriend? I expected you to date a big black guy with a swinging dick." And she would just say this, and people would laugh.
Yeah.
And I've never had a resolve to that. That memory lives in my head. I hear that all the time. That's how easy it is for white people in this state. They say stuff to us like, "Oh, you speak Arabic and Spanish." And I go, "I'm Persian. I barely speak Spanish. I only know it because like I come from Cali and stuff, and I'm not
Right.
Arabic." And they go, "Oh, you know what I mean." They say that and they live their lives. I hear it every single day, those words. And I'm light skinned presenting. There's people here that have sustained so much trauma. So it is important for us to say those words over and over again. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to get people to pay you because you don't need to sustain this. I don't even know how to, it's like abuse,
Mm.
microaggression. That's
Right.
crazy.
Right. You know what? I'm connected with you. I'm connected with you, and I'm connected with every single first gen that I interview. And like you feel like, all the storyline. Let me guess. They came here, their parents were immigrants, and then all of a sudden they were born here, and now they're talking about their opportunity. But when I hear another individual from this community go up to City Hall and they proudly say, "I'm a fourth generation, I'm a fifth generation, I've been here for centuries, my parents have been running this," but my, how easy we forget of the struggles, or maybe you don't understand or didn't understand, or maybe you haven't been told that stories of the struggles of the first generation that established that business. Just
It's
because
not,
we don't look like each other doesn't mean that our struggles aren't the same.
but the other thing is it's education, right? Like New Hampshire doesn't subsidize low income residents to get into university for free. So like when I moved here, I had to pay for a college class, and I was like really shocked by that. I have a couple
Yeah.
of homies that are trying to finish their art programs, and they have to pay money for being low income. So not only do we lose people that look like us to other states that
Right.
have programs that subsidize education, but you have a collective of uneducated people. This, what we're talking about, is
Mhm.
not revolutionary. This is standard practice and understanding that is being taught in schools. And it's what these people who go up and they say, "I'm fourth, fifth generation," whatever, that's outdated rhetoric. So that's how I see it as a person. Again, like I've been in school, like I'm second master's degree right now, and I'll continue. I'm going to get a PhD. I don't care. I love educating myself. But this is the contemporary educational standards internationally. And unfortunately, we're not spending time or money to educate our populace. So that's what we're doing to ourselves. We have this tired, old, boring rhetoric that people, frankly, nationally are making fun of us. And it's
Yeah.
lame because we're a really cool state. We have a lot of really cool potential. We got a lot of freedom, but our shows are being run by people who have the privilege to
Yes.
have the time, to
Right.
have time.
Right. Man, that's so true. That's that is man, like couldn't have said it better myself. How did you get to, this the fundamentals of education, and 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 what was instilled with you growing up to get to where you are now?
I just didn't want to be where I was. It was an incredibly abusive, really horrifying environment, and I was reading constantly. My best friends were the librarians because I also like I had severe. I don't know what it was like through working with all the children that I work at and aiding them slowly. Sometimes I find parallels to my life, and I can be like, "Oh, dude, I was like a depressed kid," or "Wow, there was really sexual or physical trauma there." Like that, I just as I grow up, I'm like, "Ha, that's what that is." So I just
Mm.
was always escaping into books. I even dropped out of high school because it was moving too slowly. And so you have people that are like, oh, well, you know, she's a loser or whatever. But my path was not the path that people were telling me is what everybody does. I didn't feel like I belonged. I was bored. I had no patience for any of it. I wanted to escape. I wanted to travel. I went over to Europe and like Morocco and other, you know, just like all over the country. I wanted to explore different cultures and write from a really well-informed perspective. And then I was ready for school at 24. But I've always been a hustler. I've always had to find money, and I've always had to sell myself to people with money. So code switching is like a thing. Like the way that I'm talking to you is not how I'm going to talk to my ED over at MCAC or my ED over at Kimball Jenkins or a different radio station. Like and it's not even like people make it seem so insincere, code switching and all of this stuff. But for us, it's survival. So it's always been about survival for me. That's how I've learned the skills that I need to have in order to make money and exist literally anywhere that you drop me off. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
That survival instinct, that chameleon in the room, you know, to be able to blend in, to read the room, to talk to individuals. Would you say that can be dangerous for us at the same time? Because while we're code switching, it's that swinging pendulum again, right?
Yeah.
Our communities really can't approach us because we're intimidating, because now we sound educated. They don't come from that background, and now we're approaching other individuals in a professional setting that puts us in a dynamic to upscale that pyramid, which is our struggle.
There's some really interesting. I actually have to give a shout out to Erica Perez, who does some work with, or is the head of like BLM Manchester. But during 2020 or 2021, she was like, I don't code switch anymore. It's over. And like that, you know, because they're younger and more hip than me. I'm like aging, right? Like this is the new generation. And homie was like, I don't code switch anymore. And I was like, amazing. Like, duh. As I'm talking about theory and all of this logic, like it took a younger person than myself to be like, duh, dude, like we don't have to prove that we're educated. So there has been some, again, as I talk about rediscovering myself, as I took the shackles of being a rich white man away, and I was like, I could just be a rich Yaz. Like I could just be myself and be the zenith of myself. That was pretty cool, but so I'm not like other people. So I don't know how to describe it. I've been like houseless a lot. I've traveled way too much. I'm not normal, but nobody is, I guess. I do mimic just to survive, but it's again not like something that I choose to do at that time. It's just automatic.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting. This is why I need time to regroup. Like when I go, like I have to go to like Chamber of Commerce stuff, which I don't do because I'm just like, this is not working for me.
Oh my God. I got a story about the Chamber of Commerce. Oh my God.
But like, no, well, I mean, so it's, you know, I'm working in two different cities right now, right? Like Manchester feels way more comfortable than Concord. And Concord keeps claiming that it's the cultural capital of the state. And I'm like, have you been to Nashua though? Like Nashua has food that tastes amazing. Like Nashua is the cultural capital of the state, in my honest opinion. And that's because of the diversity, like period. That's again also learning from like Jordan Thompson, who's down there as well, and some of the work that he's done with the school board, and just familiarizing myself with the rich landscape of like Nashua. But yeah, so you know, as you say, it's exhausting. Yeah, so I go as the token to these chamber events because they don't want me there, man. They don't want me to be like, hey, so where's your inclusivity and diversity? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm sorry to be that person.
Where's your community?
Yeah.
Where's your community?
They say they have allotted a space for that. They say it's the cultural festival.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I guess thank you so much for giving us a day of celebration, and we've been represented for the year. We're good to
Yeah.
go.
No, man, man. No different
Yeah.
than no different than these bigger corporations putting us aside for these brands and giving us a section of the aisle for a month. And we support black businesses.
It's
We support. We've been talking to the Chamber of Commerce about, like we are for profit business. We're a media company. We're an advertising company. And we mostly help the BIPOC community to give them the platform that they deserve. It's never been done before. It's we do it in Spanish, we do it in English, and we'll do it in Portuguese. And one thing that we were thinking about is, how do we bridge that gap? How do we connect? And so the Chamber of Commerce was in our radar, and they reached out, and we went to do a meet and greet, and all of a sudden they're like, we would like to do a barter. We love what you're doing. We would like to do a barter in exchange. So we can put you on a list of 320 white business owners, and if we give you the seal of approval, we're giving you all of these connections.
that's what you get. Okay, sorry. Go on, please.
And one hand washes the other, and then by you bringing in the Latinos, we can advertise what you guys are doing, and we can put you on the cool kids list. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like,
that's literally when you pay your dues for the chamber to be on the chamber. That's literally what they give everybody. So that's nothing. That's
yeah.
And then again, we're talking about contemporary. It's not theory, it's just proven. Like, diversity means you have to make space at the table. And I've said that over and over again. Any place I sit, I'm like, okay, so again, I'm your only POC here, and I'm lighter skin presenting. So like, you're like, first of all, but where's your seat at the table? Again, they go, well, it's open, so anybody can come. And I say, who wants to sit at this table and be judged in front of a homogenous group of people? It's scary. It's uncomfortable. So you are not taking the effort, which is so simple, man. You can just say, this seat is reserved if nobody wants to be here. Because of how toxic and scary we've made our environment, we have to incentivize it, which means you take from your budget that you're getting from our tax dollars, from grants and funds that are meant to better your community. So take some of that money and pay somebody to be there. And
that money has been allocated for, though. That money has been allocated for, and we have some. And if you are too intimidated, Yasmin, if you are too intimidating, guess what? We'll find somebody else that looks like you and that will just want the validation. That's another thing that we need to talk about is we're not moving up together. We're moving aside. We're moving sideways. We're not moving up. We need to hold each other accountable by collectively coming together as a community from the BIPOC community. And when it comes to that tokenism, we have to be really careful because we can be manipulated in other ways. I know nonprofits on the way that they move, and it's strategically moved to say, I am in the position to go back into my community and tell them what's going on. Yeah, but are you getting paid your worth? What is your worth? Where are you at? What do you want to do? We can make a difference internally than going out to corporations and other businesses to seek the seal of approval and then to come back and say, yes, I'm exactly what I thought I was because the white man said so.
So again, personal experience, but also like this is a small state. So like I was telling Jasmine, you're amazing human being. Sometimes I can't talk because they will shoot us in the back. Like,
oh, yeah.
They will keep us out of conversations, which is again another reason why like this is another. It's not theory, it's practice, and so we create. I am working on a festival right now in May. Like we create We also have our Juneteenth event coming up. We create our own events, our own community, our own cultural celebrations because they won't let us in. They won't put up our artwork. They won't give us a space. Like, shout out to 3S for the work that they're doing. Why aren't other places becoming, again, Kimball Jenkins. I'm so freaking amazed to work in a place where every time I'm like, diversity, they're like, hell yeah. And like literally anything I conceive, it's not only just given a yes, which means this has happened before where I have to do all the work, I have to get it, and there's no support. It's the culture on the ground here. I feel protected, I feel supported, and I feel uplifted. That's not the case. So what happens is we create our own events. So big names have their own arts festivals where nobody on the board is brown, is queer, and if they're queer, they're like buddy. It's just so toxic and so weird. Sorry, I've just like worked in so many of these festivals and things that like it's just exhausting. And the betrayal is so weird when you give yourself for years to these organizations and realize that you were nothing but like a pawn, like none of your ideas. I even went and got all the degrees that I needed. All the degrees. I speak how many languages, dude? I've educated myself in all of the worlds that I can. Obviously, education never stops. And still you turn your back on me because I'm not white. That's unbelievable to me. It can't be my skin color. And yet I look at the board of directors, and yet I look at who's in the administrative houses, in the executive positions, who's making more than $50K a year, which to me is a livable wage, because all other white people in this area are like, livable wage is a myth. And I'm like, nah, dude, it's the truth. And it's the skin color. That's the only thing that's keeping me out. It's the skin color. That blows my mind. I'm sorry, but like, it's dark. So you feel this trauma though. It's still there. It's still like when you start opening it, it hurts so much, dude.
Right.
Damn. All right.
You know, at the same time, when we speak about these, you know, situations of like, you know, not being let in because, you know, we're from the BIPOC community. Out of this movement, there has to be a light of positivity. And for us, you know, what we've noticed is the true allies, again, don't speak for us, but let us speak. Yeah. And are by our side and saying, hey, no, you definitely worth more than that. Keep pushing.
That's my approach. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
But that's been my approach with, so all of these new festivals that we're doing, all of my positions in outreach coordination and programming for the brilliant nonprofits that I work in, I have not been the person to say, this is what this is going to look like. I pull in partners from BIPOC organizations and I say, what is your idea? How can I support you? How can I throw my funding behind you? What do you see? You know? So that's been a really important, and another question that I ask boards and committees that I sit on, I go, we're planning an event or a workshop or a class for people that aren't here and can't speak for themselves. The youth. Did you ask anybody from the BIPOC youth? Did you ask anybody and say, what do you want? And how can we make that happen? No, you're just sitting here doing the same thing that you want. So there is a light. There is a light.
With everything said and done, what motivates you? What inspires you? And what's the hope for our community? And what's the end goal of a possibility of bridging that gap? Because as you know, if we stay divided, right?
Yeah.
If we start focusing and we collectively come together, the minority is starting to become the majority.
That's the thing. And then that's the other thing. Like, I was so excited to talk to you. Like, my friend Kenny Frash, who runs Hopknot, was like, have you met these people? And I'm like, what is this? So, like, reaching out, taking chances. I had a conversation with the New Hampshire Panther and they're all the way up in the north, you know, just making our network tighter. That's why I got stuck on that petty thing where I am shocked by people who think that they could do it better and they could do it by themselves. I do not do this. It's another model that I've learned from Kile Ademene out of MCAC, where she's like, we're a village. Not only when we reach out to partners? Do we say, be a partner with us in the front facing? So it's like they gave us $500. So like they're a partner now. It's like, no, do the work.
Exactly.
How are you going to do the work? Come to our monthly meetings where we talk about what we can provide to our community. Show up and volunteer when we need you, like when our children need you. So we have all of these amazing new American refugee populations. We run these tutoring programs, and all of our partners in this village come and put time and effort in, as well as just throw some money. Right. So that's the other thing. It's an hour or two a week that it takes to actively be engaged and volunteer. And it's making our networks tighter and knowing that we, like you mentioned, we will be the majority in this state. We do have a voice, and we should be working together to just hold these organizations accountable. Because again, they are receiving money for things that they're not doing, and we need to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be a part of the nonprofit committee here in Nashua, the CAC, the Civic Advisory Commission. And one thing that and great individuals in that organization truly that don't speak about it, and the best ones are the ones that don't need the limelight of saying, hey, guess what, look at me, I support this organization. It's the ones that give you the text message. It's the ones that give you the phone calls and say, hey, love what you guys are doing, have you ever thought about this, let me give you a warm handoff, and give us that boost that we need, right? Shout out to those individuals. You know who we are, we love you. But with that said and done, sitting in these boards, right, sitting in these nonprofits and looking at these organizations that are asking for funding, right, and they're trying to reach the whole community. I constantly have to go in there and say, when I hear these stories, and this was my first year sitting on the board, I say, when you talk about the whole community, do you really mean the whole community? And if that's the case, right, where's the literature? Where's the outreach in our language? Where's it in where is it in Swahili? Where is it in Arabic? Where is it in Mandarin? Where is it in Portuguese? Where is it in Spanish? Because remember, those communities are our communities. Those individuals, our taxpayers. And then you know what? They come back, there's like 4 of them for a quorum. They sit back and they're like, you know what, and I'm sorry. And they apologize and they're like, I'm so sorry that was never brought up. All right, great. From now on, if they're applying to the grant, we're going to hold them accountable to make sure that they have each and every one of these organizations have literature that is reaching out so that we know, and they don't need an individual that is well connected to be like, I would love to go out to my community and be like, did you know about, I love hearing, I learned it from you. No, but I don't want to be the only one saying it. I want it to be amplified. Let's talk about it. You know?
It's also like some of the organizations just that I'm thinking about are so big and traditional. They get millions of dollars because that's the way that it is. Their grant writer's been there for like 20 years or whatever. Like, it's not even a grant writer. These are just things that are locked and loaded. And I've heard this a lot. Do you know who our donors are? Do you know who our donors are? Our donors are rich, older white people. So we can't put out social media that says anything. Now we can't talk about if there's racism because of all these new weird rules that New Hampshire is coming up with. Like, and they don't believe that brown and black people have money. So do you know who our donors are? It's catering your message and yourself to a dying population that is not the future.
You know what? I can probably say within our business, and I can probably say that the most of our partners are from the BIPOC community, our Latinos. Most of our
See,
partners
that's what
check this out. Check this out. And we might have one or two partners that are white individuals, right, from our community that are entrepreneurs, but they will never speak for us. They know firsthand that if they support us, and those individuals that do wholeheartedly support us, they ask for our input, they ask for our advice on the trajectory, but we hold them accountable. We've walked away from money. I'll tell you a quick story because we're going to wrap up in 10 minutes, but we walked away from a big check from an organization that brought a person of color into the meeting. Her name was Maria, and said, yes, we are trying to reach out to the community. As a matter of fact, we're working along with Maria. All right, leave the room. Let me speak to Maria. Maria, do you have the position of power to make decisions for our community, or are you just a face like any local bank in this community, like any local bank that puts
SNHU?
No, like any local bank, like any local bank that puts the Hispanic workers in the front, but those individuals were not or are not in a position to make decisions for their own community. They could just translate and reiterate to the board of directors. I hate to repeat these stories over and over again, but it happens. Long story short, we spoke to Maria. Maria does not make any decisions. She is the face and the translator to connect those individuals so that they can find them an opportunity. But guess who it benefits? It benefits the upper command. So we said, you know what we said? We said we spoke to Maria, and I'm sorry that it's just not going to work out. Here you go. Thank you very much, though. We'll reconnect in the future when we see that it's the best fit. Oh my God. When they feel that you don't need them as much as they need you, be careful. Because now it's a different conversation. Now you're a threat, and now you're unapproachable. I'd rather
that's that culture, though. Y'all have that culture in place. Like, you understand that. And I think that was why I mentioned a lot of these big organizations is if you don't have diversity, you don't have this cultural shift that needs to happen in order to be relevant in today's society.
But just don't pick any individual out from the street and then say, hey, guess what? You're the new face. If I may, if Jasmine wants to jump in, before I asked her what she was worth and to put her in a position as a Latina, as an entrepreneur, which she is now, there was an organization coming and saying, no, don't leave us. Here's a big check.
Yeah, that would be about right.
That's smoke and mirror. That's smoke and mirror nonsense. No, what do you mean? You're going to do it on your own? Absolutely not. You can't. Let us do it for us. Here, let us pay you. Jasmine, you want to?
Yeah, it's always, of course, the security factor too. Like, oh, you have more security doing this and that. And in reality, it discourages someone from being able to pursue what their passions are and what, being able to escape the nonprofit realm as a Latina, like, because I was in nonprofit, world for like 5 years. And I'm a huge advocate for this, but like some of the best community workers are people who live in the community. And so I always say, like, it's always nice to have a person come in with a, master's degree, and not knocking anybody with a master's degree, but there are a lot of people of color who live in the community who do a better job of connecting with the youth, who do a better job of connecting with the people they live with, the people that they go to the same grocery store with.
Right. The people that support those businesses.
Yes, exactly.
Yasmin, you ever want to take a tour in Nashville and you want to go see your community? Come hang out with us. We'll introduce you to every single business owner from our community. And when I say our community, I say ours, Yasmin's, our community. And watch how they approach us with a warm welcome.
I literally am coming at 7 p.m. tonight because moving from LA, being here for 4 years, there's only one woman in Nashua that I will let touch my hair because this one sucks for fashion. And I literally,
oh my God, I literally, Yasmin, I am in the same boat. That is literally me.
Who you guys, Give her a shout out. Give her a shout out. Give her a shout out.
I can't. I don't. I'm not that. I don't have any of that information. It's just the name is
okay.
Emily. It's a lady in a shop.
Yeah.
My homegirl Nikki, who's a brilliant violinist, amazing. Yeah, but she gave her to me. So sorry. Sorry.
No, but listen. So you see us. Our struggles are the same. Our upbringings. The trajectory, the education. You're a little bit more educated than I am, and I'm a student.
Don't say that. I know exactly what that is. That is you humbling yourself so you're more relevant to people. I know that trick. No, you're not more educated.
No. I say that.
I'm sorry. I'm not more.
No. But I'm saying in the most humblest way because, we have to be honest with each other. And not just try to over trump one another. Like, what are you doing? I'm doing this. I'm doing that. It's that competitiveness within within that community that is all intertwined within that survival mechanism, right? Like, what can you do for me that I can do you for, and we could do for each other and for the community? We got to be honest with each other. What do you bring to the table? I don't got that. You got this? Great. Let's work together. That's how we build up. By truly holding each other accountable and knowing our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. I have conversations just to have conversations and get people in my brain web. Like, I don't need to have a capitalist product after every meeting. What are we going to do now? I'm just like, hey, I'm here. So this is what I do. Here's some events if you want to come to it. Let's talk. Let's go hiking. Let's go out to dinner. I don't care. I just want to grow my community. And I hear what you're doing. So when I have a young kid, we have some incidents that happen. Somebody wants a job. Somebody wants anything. Jobs. That's another big thing. I just go, okay, I got you. I connect you here. So, absolutely. That's easy. We can just know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So what's in the future for you? What are you working on? How can anybody that from your community in Manchester that is looking for maybe just somebody to talk to, or maybe somebody that can relate and feels like this, that they want to put their foot forward and actually contribute and do something?
Well, again, because there's no space for us art-wise, if you want, we got a big event in May. I'm working on a couple of other shows, but if you want to put your artwork up in a festival that's for you, if you want to vend, if you're BIPOC, queer, whatever, this is the space. Come at me. I don't know my socials or something like this, but
we'll tag you. We'll tag you on your socials.
Okay, tight. Yeah. What else? Like, there's Kimball Jenkins where I'm at in Concord. We have free art classes Tuesdays and Thursdays. My art classes are on Thursdays and they are amazing. But we're prepping to do murals in this city. So working on some of that stuff. Personally, I've been working on a big giant installation that will travel. So I don't know. There's a lot of work out there. I'm exhausted. This conversation was beautiful, but like, you were amazing, and that was so much. That energy was a lot. So
no, I get it. I mean, I feel for you. I feel for us. But I'm hopeful because there's a lot of amazing things happening with a lot of incredible individuals, and Manchester is lucky to have you. And if Manchester doesn't value you, then guess what? Your brothers and sisters in Nashua will definitely put you up and have a location for you here. So
if people want to volunteer an hour to tutor some BIPOC kids, that would be a great help. So every Sunday we're at the Science Center, but there's other opportunities. But you could be a mentor to somebody and have active role in changing their lives. And I've been doing this and seeing my students grow. Their English is getting better. They are becoming less shy. The trauma from refugee camps, the trauma to being a new American is real. And we can actively create a new future for our youth. So that's another big opportunity with MCAC. So
thank you so much for joining us on First Gen American. Ladies and gentlemen, Yasamin, an amazing artist, just a great soul. We're blessed to have you. Shout out to all of our sponsors, Rivera Nayarit, Mi Jalisco, Boomer Graphics and Signs, and Fences Unlimited. If you are looking for a new career path, in any aspect, with a great company with corporate benefits. Boomer Graphics and Signs, and also Fences Unlimited are both hiring. Shout out to all of the individuals that keep supporting us. Shout out to the listeners. Make sure you follow us on all social media, and we'll put in Yasmin's information for the volunteer work and where you can find her on social media. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I know there's a lot to unpack. That was a little different from our regular shows, but it's needed, and I loved it. Thank you, guys. Till next time.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream.